Okay, that gives us the word, I think. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. We're in travel, recreation, and wildlife. If you're on the wrong flight, you might want to get out into the concourse and find a different flight. We're going to try to work as hard as we can this morning, everyone, to get some bills out and up to the Senate. We have 4 on the docket this morning, and the TRW committee will come back at noon to take up 3 more bills. So we've got a very busy day. So I would simply ask those who are presenting and testifying today, let's get to the point and be quick and professional, and we'll get through these bills. So the first bill for our consideration is, let's take roll first. I apologize.
Senator Bonner.
Here.
Senator Hicks.
Here.
Senator Jones.
Here.
Senator Schuler.
Excused?
Chairman Landon.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, now we can take up Senate File 25, landowner license limits in limited quota hunt areas. I would ask, Director, if you and your department folks who would like to come forward and just remind us what this bill does. This is an interim committee bill that was taken up and worked during the interim. And so it's familiar to those of us on the panel, but come on forward, Director, and if you don't mind, we'd love to hear some reminders from you on this bill and maybe talk a little bit about what that process would be if this bill goes through. So, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Senators. Good to be with you this morning, bright and early.
Yeah.
With me today is Dan Smith. He's our Chief of Wildlife and Chief Game Warden. And also Commissioner Bell is here with us as well. And he was also a Wildlife Task Force member and is very familiar with this topic.
Good to see you, Commissioner. Thanks for being here.
So in summary, what this bill would do is it would authorize the commission to establish quotas or maximum limits for landowner license. So it would give them a tool that they would be able to do that if they so pleased. And so we've talked to you guys several times regarding how we feel and the need for this bill, but I thought I'd just touch on that again for you guys really briefly. We all know that Wyoming has incredible wildlife. You guys understand that. And I think it's probably, I could say, the best in the lower 48, even though I'm a little bit biased. And we have support across the state from you guys, the governor, the public, to manage wildlife for future generations. But it is important to remember that we could not do this without landowners. And they are a huge contribution to the wildlife habitat that allow our wildlife populations to thrive. And in particular, Western Landowners Association recently published a review of landowner contributions to conservation. And in 2024, the year alone, across 11 Western states, landowners spent $407 million on conservation. I think that's very important to note that they are doing their part. Unfortunately, in some cases, Wyoming does not have enough wildlife to meet the needs and demands of our hunters. We don't see this across the United States. Many Midwest and Eastern states are having difficulty retaining hunters. However, we have continued to have a really strong hunting community and increased interest over the years. But to address the gap between supply and demand, we often have hunt opportunities that limit license, and then you enter into a draw for that opportunity to hunt. Landowner licenses are issued first to those eligible landowners. There have been incidences in the past where the public has had no opportunity or minimal opportunity to draw in those limited areas. This is not real common today, but it's anticipated to increase over time, especially as we see more hunter demand and in some cases, unfortunately, lower big game populations. In 2022, the governor's Wyoming Wildlife Task Force recommended to the Game and Fish Commission that a limit on the number of landowner licenses be issued and not to exceed 20% of an available license in a hunt area. The commission did not have this authority to implement this. After a 3-year extensive review of eligibility requirements for landowner license, that included with several proposals for changes, the commission landed on the same conclusion that a landowner license limitation or cap may be helpful. If given the authority or tool, the commission may, but they don't have to, set a limit on landowner license issued. They have had some discussion on when and how this may be used. However, if they are given this authority, they would follow the same process required by law to involve the public in that discussion and decision, along with our regular hunting season setting process. So with that, I'll just stand for any questions.
Committee, any questions on Senate File 25? So I guess, Director, what would be helpful to me, and maybe the commissioner can help us with this, but can you describe the process? First of all, what this bill allows for, it's a may, not a shall. So the language in this bill simply, I think, gives a nod to the commission to go to work on this. At that point, what happens? And can you walk me through that process? Yeah.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. If the commission wanted to take this on, they most likely would give some direction to staff, and then we would take it back and propose some regulation changes along with our regular hunting season. That then would go out for a comment period to the public. We would also host a variety of public meetings so that we could have one-on-one engagement with all publics, and then bring those comments and that input that we heard from the public back to the commission. They typically review all that extensively before a commission meeting, and then have that discussion in the public at a commission meeting if they are possibly making any changes. Anything you have?
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? I think, go ahead, Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Director Bruce, when you guys went through this process, I mean, if you go through the process, what it effectively would allow you to do is actually, I'm assuming you could look at each individual unit based on land ownership, wildlife distribution. So it wouldn't necessarily, it could be, but it wouldn't necessarily be a one size fits all with there are 100 and some different hunting units for deer and antelope. So, but it would really allow you the flexibility to tailor the number of landowner permits available in each unit based on populations, distribution, land ownership, migration patterns, all these things provides much more flexibility. Is that the way you anticipate the department would look at this?
Sure,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman,
Commissioner, go ahead.
Senator Hicks, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely the way that would be looked at. I think all the committee members know how much time we spent on the task force, the wildlife task force on this subject. And, we can look at, that distribution of wildlife throughout a limited quota area, how much public land is in that limited quota area, what the history of landowner tags is, that continuing to increase. What does that look like? What should that cap be? We take public comment on that, and then set that cap as you say. But it would not. I would not think it would be the same in all areas for sure. I mean, I think every area, limited quota area, is different. I think during the task force, we went back and forth on what that number should be, and we ultimately just decided on 20. But really what it comes down to is a fairness in the fact that we want to make sure that there's an opportunity when somebody's sending in for a license, that they have an opportunity to draw in every single limited quota area area, non-resident or resident. It's just not fair. And we don't have the authority to do this. It's not fair to have an area that 100% of the licenses go to landowners. It's just not. And we understand, and we have how we react or interact with landowners, how we work with them, what they do for our wildlife is critical. We understand that. We're not trying to take away landowner licenses from landowners. We're trying to have the ability to make that fair in every single limited quota area, and it's not going to be the same in every area. I do believe that this would, because we do have some non-resident areas that 100% of the licenses are issued to non-resident landowners. I do think that this would be something that would come up right away. If this was passed, we would probably have something to look at, maybe on a yearly basis, but certain areas we would have to take some action, I would say fairly quickly, or at least in the next year.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Go
just
ahead,
to
follow
follow
up.
up, to put a real fine point on it, just as a real illustration, is like, I think it's Elk Unit 5 and 6 out here that are 95% private property. You know, you through that process, and you may end up with 80% of all those permits as landowner permits versus conversely over in my area, we're at 70 or 80% public land out there in those red desert units, but because it is limited quota, there's potentially more eligible landowners than there is permits in some cases. That may be 10 to 20% cap. So you'll adjust those caps based on, those factors, but those are two real scenarios where you have one 95% private and one that's 70 or 80% public, that would allow the commission the ability and the discretion to move those based on those circumstances.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, that's correct.
All
Yeah,
right, thank you.
All the areas are just so different from the western side of the state to the eastern side of the state, and where those animals are distributed. The flexibility on being able to move that number is pretty critical, I think.
All right, thank you.
So go ahead, Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. I don't know if Director Bruce can answer this or not, but I've just been thinking about it. Actually, in terms of this whole bill, really. I know with the drought and the migration of what's happening, are you seeing some areas that you're kind of concerned about, with not just limited quota areas, but other areas in the state that you're concerned with?
Director, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, absolutely. I think we all know this is an extreme winter that has us all worried, with not only the moisture, the forage that'll be available in the spring, but then the chance for wildfires and then what that does. So definitely, if we could control the weather, we would. But there's compounding factors, and I think that's one of them. And so sometimes this isn't a matter of that what percentage goes to landowners, but when we lower the overall amount of tags or license that are available, it makes this conversation even harder, because, I briefly talked about that supply and demand. We have less supply, and that makes, really us in tough situations where how many should go to landowners versus the general public. So that's one issue.
So, Director, I guess lacking this bill, could the commission take this up without us telling you to take it up?
Mr. Chairman, Senators, they've discussed it a lot. Like I said, for about 3 years, they've been working on this. And under state statute, they don't have the authority to set a cap at this time.
Okay, thanks for that reminder. Commissioner, back to you real quickly. I can't speak for the rest of the committee, but the Joint Committee did consider establishing a low bar limit statewide. And that was not moved during the interim, and the bill arrived the way you see it this morning. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is that establishing any sort of lower bar all the way across may not be wise in some areas versus others.
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question, and we kind of touched on it earlier, that the limited quota areas are so much different from the western side of the state to the eastern side of the state to the southeast to the northeast, that while I'll be honest, there's a limit, a cap limit would be better than nothing. At least we would have that opportunity. All sportsmen would have an opportunity then to draw in every single limited quota area. However, I think the flexibility, whether that should be 40% or 20% in a certain area, or should it be 80% in a certain area, I think I think we serve the ability to do that and take public comment on individual areas from individual landowners, individual sportsmen that use that area, and where those game numbers are distributed in a certain area. I think we would do a better job with that. And I don't know that it's, if we set it at 40, if 40% is the right number in every single areas. I don't know if it's 20%. I really, until we look at that, I mean, I could give you my opinions looking at public land and that distribution in that limited quota area. But until you take that public comment from those landowners and those sportsmen that use that area, I think it gives the ability also to bridge that gap in each of those limited quota areas with the sportsman and the landowner, which is right now, it's a little bit strained. And so it would give us the ability to have those public comment sessions on those individual areas. And I think that's important.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else for the Game and Fish, folks? Okay, thank you very much, you guys. I want to get to anyone else who would like to come forward and testify on Senate File 25, the landowner permit bill. I see one of our own in the back. We'll get to the senator if he'd like to come forward. But please come forward, Mr. Magagna. It doesn't look like the senator's jumping up yet, but we want to make sure that the Senator French gets an opportunity. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim Magagna with the Wyoming Stockholders Association. Mr. Chairman, we certainly understand the issue that the commission and department have been facing in certain specified areas. I don't think it's really widespread, but a few instances where all of the limited quota licenses were being taken up with landowners, and we understand the need to address that. In fact, we testified before the commission when they attempted to address it before they realized they had lacked the authority to do so, and they were proposing a floor of 20% license had to remain available for landowners. We proposed 40% to them. But I think the key thing here is that, and I've been hearing a lot about this from landowners, if this bill passes as it's currently written, in effect, it has given the commission total authority. Some commission at some point in the future could say, we're just going to eliminate all landowner licenses. And they would have the authority to do that under this bill as we understand it. So we think it's important. Two things. One is to recognize the purpose for which they can take that action. And that is if their population is down, they deal with that by setting their quotas. If the hunter demand is up so high that the landowner licenses are precluding hunters, whether they be resident or non-resident, from securing licenses, then we understand why the commission will want to be in a position to say, we've got to maintain some of those to hunters. And we all support that. We support the hunting community. They're critical to managing wildlife on both public and private lands. But we do think that, and I've proposed an amendment to you, and one key part of that amendment is the statement that this action has to be taken in order to provide public hunting opportunities. So the future commission can't eliminate licenses for a different reason than to maintain public hunting opportunities. We think that is critical, that the legislature put some parameters on how this authority can be utilized if this bill moves forward. As I mentioned, we've been supportive of 40%. The Wildlife Task Force had talked about 20%. We still believe that 40 is a reasonable number, and to say that they wouldn't reduce below 40%. And the reason I say that is the message that this sends to landowners. The landowner licenses were created to recognize the role that private landowners play in providing habitat for our wildlife. And the program hasn't worked perfectly, certainly, and there's been problems for landowners, been problems for Sportsmen, there's problems with lands being divided up just to get landowner licenses. That's one that may need to be addressed in the future as well, and we've suggested the need to do that. But I think it's so critical that the legislature doesn't take an action that delivers the message to landowners that we no longer truly appreciate the commitment you make to providing habitat for our wildlife. And if this bill moves forward, we feel that inserting that language about the purpose for which they can be reduced and inserting a floor, our preference being 40%, will be important in how this is received and how it impacts the relationships between landowners and sportsmen across the state. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Well stated. Thank you, Mr. McGagnon. Appreciate all your work. And any questions for the stock growers? Let's go to Senator Schuler and then Senator Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question, Mr. McGagnon. I just wondered how you came up with the 40%. What, did you just grab that out of thin air? Was there a reason for that particular percentage? So just wondering about that.
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman,
McGagnon.
Senator Schuler, two things. One, we came up with that when the commission had proposed 20% before they realized that they lacked that authority. And we tried to find a number that we felt still demonstrated strong support for the role of landowners, for the principle behind landowner licenses. So we felt that 20% showed a lack of appreciation for the role of those licenses in promoting the relationship between sportsmen and landowners, that 40% assured that wherever they needed to take that action, that they could, if 100% licenses were currently going to landowners, if they can take 60% of those away and make them available to the public, that's a significant move towards supporting the hunting public. And yet isn't a demonstration that we no longer value the role of landowners and seek to recognize that role through landowner licenses.
Thank you.
Senator Hicks.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. McGagnon. I'm just aware of a circumstance, the alternate to the scenario you described. We had happen, I believe, 2 years ago after the bad winter of 2023. We had particularly in my area, we had an antelope unit that the quota was reduced down. And because of the current rules, 100%, that unit's 65, 70% public land, 100% of those permits went to landowners. And so that's the way we currently do it. So there was no other option in there because the commission had no flexibility to address those because the way the license are allocated, first ones that come out of the pool are landowners. And so part of the reason to get to this was to try to get to that equity issue. You got a unit that's 70% public land and 100% of those licenses went to landowner. But I do understand where you're coming from. And I think, some proposed language that might resolve the issue that you're talking about. The point I'm trying to make is the percentage issues change year to year based on population demographics, land ownership, and we're just trying to provide some flexibility to the department to address that. But I do think I understand the concern that future commission could just say no. So I think we can address that, Mr. Chairman, with a simple sentence to make sure that doesn't happen. But again, we're trying to leave as much discretion to the department as possible there with the public input process they go to. So if we can address your concerns of the note that they have to issue some landowner permits without the percentage, would that resolve your concerns?
Mr. McGagnon.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, certainly we're happy to look at any language that may be proposed, but in terms of giving landowners some comfort level, we think that some percentage, not that that's going to apply in every case, but some minimal percentage, and we can certainly discuss what that should be, is critical to delivering the correct message here. Another way to approach this would be to say the percentage landowner license should reflect the percentage of private land in the hunt area, and that would be a simple way forward.
Sure.
But in some areas where it's 90% private land, that would deny the hunting public really any opportunity. So we feel that this approach with a floor gives broad discretion to the commission to respond to scenarios. Among the factors that they would look at is what's the population of the species doing? Is it declining? Is it expanding? And also what's the percentage of private land in the area, as Senator Hicks has indicated. We think those are all factors that the commission would and should consider, but still feel that the value of a comfort level that says, well, we know there are always going to be some there. And if this were to pass with a cap or a floor, as I refer to it, of 40% or whatever that percent might be, then I think that we could have discussion with the commission. For example, if only half the landowners with landowner licenses are able to get their license this year, one thing that could be discussed and done through the commission's authority is say, okay, those that didn't get that license would have a priority for the subsequent year or something like that. You know, I think we could, that doesn't need to be in legislation, but we could work with the commission on identifying some ways to assure that a particular landowner doesn't go for 10 years and never able to get a landowner's license, even though they may be a significant landowner.
Any follow-up, Senator Boner?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just maybe could you describe a little bit more in detail the impact that this wildlife has on ag producers? I think, you know, maybe we have a general idea that they eat a lot of hay, they eat a lot of forage that would otherwise be consumed by livestock. Has there ever been studies done that sort of try to put the fiscal impact of you know, the private sector basically supporting the state's wildlife? I mean, we can kind of think in general terms, antelopes kind of equivalent to a sheep in that, you know, 5 or 6 antelopes maybe at one animal unit. Elk are probably a lot bigger, and maybe deer are a little bit smaller. But just could you give a little bit more? Because I think we take that for granted in the production agriculture industry, but I don't think we do a very good job explaining that. So do you have any numbers that you can put to the fiscal impact of supporting the state's wildlife as being borne by our ag producers?
Mr. McGagnon. go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman,
Yeah.
Senator Boner, I don't have any broad numbers in front of me. If I could do some work, if those are available or not. But as a clear example, 2 years ago, we had brought legislation forward that was intended to enhance the program for damage compensation. It works quite well with regard to fences and haystacks and those things. Where it hadn't worked very well with regards to rangeland, where the current statute just speaks of extraordinary damage. And that legislation didn't move forward. But as a result of that, we worked with the commission and they strengthened their own approach to that, to the point that it's working rather well. You mentioned how much the animal uses, and this is one issue that we're still working with them on. Under the current formula, I believe that an elk is, for example, deemed to be 50%, or don't hold me to the number, I don't have it in front of me right now, of an AUM or of a cow for a month. We've seen other research that shows that to be 70% done by the NRCS and others. So we're working in that area right now, but that only applies. And one quick example, and I'll conclude, where we've had a huge elk population just north and west of Cheyenne here that was well over the Game and Fish's population objectives. I'm aware of at least one landowner who's been able to provide us with very substantive information, who was forced to reduce their cattle operation by 20% to compensate for the forage that they were losing to excess numbers of wildlife, not to the numbers that were established and that they were willing to maintain, but to excess numbers.
Thank you, Senator Boner. Appreciate it. Anything else for the stock growers? Thank you, Mr. McGagnon. Appreciate it
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Chairman.
Further testimony on Senate File 25. Please come down and let's get clipped through our testimony this morning. We want to make sure and get these bills out if we can and up to the Senate. Good morning, Ms. Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jess Johnson, Wyoming Wildlife Federation's Government Affairs Director. I'll keep it very short. We do support this bill. I think it's a easy thing to hand the authority over it, but it's hard, I think, with the trust. And I understand where Mr. McGagnon is coming from with worrying about how that will be viewed by the public. I think also how it will be viewed by landowners and how the commission will go about dealing with this. I will say that in my history in the last 10 years, whenever landowner issues have come in front of the commission, the way that they have handled it has always been with deference to the landowner, in a good way, in a respectful way, in a way that has acknowledged the impact and the importance of private land to the wildlife of this state. And so I would never want to put something forward that would impinge upon that. However, the other side of that is talking to Senator Hicks's point of like a case by case approach, looking at, you know, what does the unit look like? What is the interest? Who are the, you know, not who are the landowners, but how many landowners, how many public land acres and all of that. And I think there is an element there where we need to kind of look at how we do approach this in a really nuanced way. That being said, if there is comfort in putting a ceiling in a place, I think we can probably live with that if that's what needs to come forward. But I would like to see the ability for the commission to actually prove out and handle this. You know, I always sit here and I always argue for the commission authority in many things because they are the folks that are dealing with the things right in front of them. It's not once a year, it's 5 times a year. And they have the expert sitting in front of them, and there's a full public process that they go through. They don't just make a decision and then say that's it and sign off on it. They make a decision and have to put it out for public comment. And, you know, in the last time when we looked at landowner licenses there, they very, very loud and clear heard the landowners and actually walked back many of the things that they put forward because they listen, you know, so I want to stand in support of this, and I also want to stand in support of our commission's ability to sort of make the decisions as they see fit in each place. But that being said, the language in here necessary to maintain the public hunting opportunity, I'm fine with that. If that helps make people feel comfortable, you know, so that it isn't a willy-nilly decision, that it isn't out there, I think that's an easy thing for those of us to like keep moving this bill forward. What I would say is we need this bill. I want to see this go through, and I want to certainly stand in support of hearing the landowners on this one and moving the ability for the commission to deal with this in a way that is maybe a little more detailed per unit.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anything for the Wyoming Wildlife? Thank you very much. Senator, you were a little reluctant earlier. Do you want to come forward and you had first shot at it, really?
I appreciate it. Takes me a while to wake up in the morning.
Yeah, we're with you. My gosh, yeah.
Just a
Morning,
quick comment.
Senator.
I hope the landowner tag program stays intact. I mean, I understand the hunting community where maybe 100% of the tags, they don't like it. And I get it. I understand that, you know, so it sounds like this bill may address that. But to Senator Boner's question on some of the impacts, I get landowner tags up there. Yeah, you're compensated if they eat your haystack, but when you have somebody shoot at a group of 350 head of elk and they come roaring across you, which has happened to me many a time, they just blow the fences apart. They go and I have a lot of gated pipe. As they cross the gated pipe, they punch holes in your gated pipe or knock the gates off. So you're out there spending time and money to fix or pull your line of gated pipe apart to put a new piece in, that kind of thing. But I think the biggest thing impact on me when that big elk herd come in after they introduced the wolves west of me in 95, I believe it was 94 or 95. About 2 years later, a group of about 350 to 400 head of elk come in. And once they found, I'm kind of on the edge of the prairie, once they found my hay fields, they come back every winter. They seem to enjoy that. But the biggest thing is the cheatgrass. I never had cheatgrass on the farm, never did. And suddenly I'm like, I've got cheatgrass? Well, I got to look, it's right where they trailed in. You can see right on their trail, a line of cheatgrass across the hayfield or across the, and it's like, then I had to start spraying buying chemical and trying to fight the cheatgrass. And, you're not really compensated when you get in a hayfield, a certain portion of the field has quite a little cheatgrass, then there's less production. How do you quantify that in a 125 acre hayfield on a center pivot? How do you get compensated for that? So there's a lot of things that cost the producer out there, but the cheatgrass is really a bad one. And, so yeah, I get landowner tags because I qualify for it. A certain number of days, use days, they call it, for the elk and antelope. And I'll address if there's time when my bill comes up on those landowner tags. But hopefully you'll protect those landowner tags and also work to address the hunters' concerns. That just causes undue tension between the landowners and the hunters. If there's areas that they, big old mule deer or whatever in that area or elk, and they can't hunt that area. So I get that, but let's try to ease that tension between the two groups. So that's all I got to say.
Senator, thank you. And I think that's really what we're all up to. We worked the entire interim and I know this committee is right with you on that. All of us have been supportive of our stock growers for sure. Many of us grew up cowboying for our stock growers. So yeah, it's a tough balancing point. It really is. And that's why we're working hard on this one. Thanks, Senator. Any questions of Senator French? Okay. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you being here. Good morning. How are you?
Well, it feels like a Monday. Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, sitting in strong support of the amendment to guarantee landowners at least 40%. I do want to point out that in the general hunt areas, of which is a lot of Wyoming, this has no impact. This is only in the limited quota areas for those species. And it's, you call this you used the word, Mr. Chairman, balancing act. I think this amendment helps with that balance. It doesn't say that every license has to go to a landowner. It says at least 40%. And I think that addresses Senator Hicks' concern where 100% of them were going to landowners. This allows the Game and Fish Commission to set that at 40% at least. They could set it at 100%. But this says that they don't have to keep it at 100% with the current situation. I think this amendment is extremely important, and I think it works. It keeps it from being 100% or 0%. So sitting in support of this amendment, if this bill is amended with this in it, we'd support the bill. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd sit for any questions you or the committee may have.
Mr. Moline, Senator Hicks.
So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moline, so one of the things that I would like you guys to opine on there is because we're seeing an increasing number of absentee landowners in the state of Wyoming. And we're seeing an increase of absentee landowners for the purpose of buying ranches for just having landowner tags. I mean, I can show you a number of real estate advertisements out there that's how they sell these things, is guaranteed 2 elk, guaranteed this, guaranteed that. So there's no provision in this language that would restrict in those areas that all 40% of those landowner tags went to non-resident absentee landowners. And so I'm just curious if in a scenario like that would happen. Is that something that your organization supports? Because there's no safeguards that couldn't happen under the language you're proposing.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, that, as was mentioned before, I'll just pick a number. Say there's 100 licenses available in the limited quota area, And with this amendment, 40 of them would go to landowners. If there's demand for 60, if there's 60 landowners that put in, having the Game and Fish Commission be able to do a lottery system, much like they do with others, would fix that. Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, that problem, for lack of a better word, has been ongoing for years. I don't know how to fix it. When you have a conglomeration of land in one area where that somehow what they did, where one ranch ended up being able to get 56 landowner coupons, or not coupons, but licenses. I don't know how you fix that. I think that's another issue we need to look at. And I will say this, I think this is a step in the right direction. Is it perfect? No. How do we deal with that issue? I believe that's another issue that we need to look at. I think we already have the rules in place that you have to have so many animal use days to qualify for these. And I know that puts a burden on the landowner and on the Game and Fish, their biologists, their wardens, to be able to document that. So I think there's a system in place that helps alleviate that. It doesn't eliminate it. I don't have a good idea how to eliminate that. Anytime you make a rule, you have ways, you have people that work to get around it. I used to be the county extension agent, and anytime we put a rule in for county fair, there was people working to try to get around it. I don't know how to deal with that. I think that's another issue that we need to work on. And I believe there's ways and rules to do that. But I think this amendment, as brought by the stock growers, by Mr. Magagna, helps with this issue of, I hate to use the word, assuring that landowners will get at least some of them, but it still allows them the flexibility to do this area by area.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mullane. Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning, committee. Era Arno, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union. We love the idea of a minimum floor, are less attached to a specific percentage and open to the idea of exploring what a different formula might look like. I apologize, I don't have one to present that might combine some percentage with percentage of public land and private land in an area, but I think there are ways. But a floor and the note that this can only be done in certain circumstances, as the first agricultural speaker mentioned, is something that we certainly support. Thank you for your time to this issue.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Any questions? Okay, is there anyone else who wants to testify on Senate Bill 25, the landowner permit bill? Anyone else want to testify? Do we have somebody online? Nobody? Okay, I'm gonna close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure on this bill?
Move the bill.
Moved by Senator Hicks. No second required in this committee. We will just go right to discussion. Discussion on the bill. Senators,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hicks, go
I think
ahead.
It's important and if I'm wrong, maybe we can have the director come up. But when those out licensed, so there's a pool of license and a limited quota area. The first thing that comes out of those are the landowner license. And first thing that comes out is the resident landowners. And the next thing that comes out is the non-resident landowners. And that's why you have scenarios where 100% of those licenses can go to landowners, because it's the way those are coming out. And so that's just for edification for the committee. And I know the department has the ability maybe to address some of that, but just so you understand how that process works. And so that's why we end up in a couple of cases where 100% of those automatically go regardless of the amount of public land. I think this just gives the department a lot of flexibility to address every one of those different circumstances. Literally, there's hundreds of units out there. So, Mr. Chairman, I've got a proposed amendment to the bill for the committee that try to address, I think, the concerns of zero licenses by a future commission. And it would just go in at the end of line 10 and just put in there, under no circumstances shall the commission issue zero landowner licenses and limited quota hunter areas if there are applicants from eligible landowners. In other words, that still leaves it up to the discretion of the commission. There will always be landowner permits in those limited quota areas, but it's going to begin tailored to each individual hunt unit based on the circumstances, the population and all that. But
Can you help us
one
with
more
that
time.
Okay.
amendment one more time, Senator?
So
It goes
under
fully-
no circumstances shall the commission issue 0 landowner licenses in limited quota hunt areas if there are applications from eligible landowners. In other words, they have to meet the eligibility criteria to be in there. But it gets to the issue is this, in future commissions in no way could come in there and say, we're not going to issue any landowner permits.
Did you get that?
Mr. Chairman,
Sue?
could I get that one more time?
One-
Yeah,
Senator
one
Hicks?
more time.
Is the language will be under no circumstances shall the commission issue 0 landowner licenses in limited quota hunt areas if there are applications from eligible landowners.
Okay, does everybody understand the amendment?
Mhm.
Discussion on the amendment. Finish up your thoughts, Senator Hicks. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure everyone had that amendment properly.
Mr. Chairman, what I heard is there's a concern that a future commission could come in here and not issue any landowners. And I think what we do is we've set, they can adjust those numbers based on each individual circumstance and each individual unit, but under no circumstances can they completely eliminate landowner tags. I know it's not what some people want as a numeric floor, but that just doesn't work when you have different land ownership ratios, population fluctuations, animal distributions. But I think it meets the intent of saying they can't just arbitrarily get rid of these landowner tags. And so that's the intent, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Questions? Further discussion on the amendment? Are you ready for the question? All in favor of Senator Hicks's motion, amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Okay, that amendment has passed. Sue, do you have that down? Further discussion on the bill. Committee, I'm proud of the work that we've come forward with and very cognizant of the fact that this is a really difficult thing, which is kind of why I favored leaving it open for the commission to be able to just do that work. It's a good process. It's fully in the public. This is a tough lift. And I know the department is going to really wrestle with this, but it comes at pretty unprecedented times too. I've got a lot of constituents on both sides of the fence on this one. I'm glad this is moving. It's not done. It's got about 26 more steps to go before it would, get through. And maybe we want to stick a limit on there, but I've been reluctant to do that because I don't want to put a bit in the horse's mouth. I want the commission to be able to do its work and figure out what they might suggest to us. Because I agree with Senator Hicks. All across the state, things are different, just about every part. Senators, anything else?
Question.
Anything else? Does anyone want to consider and bring the stock growers amendment? Does anyone want to bring that amendment?
Question on the bill.
I would have, I think this amendment that from Senator Hicks takes care of the issue.
All right. Sue, would you please take roll on Senate File 25?
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote on Senate File 25 as amended. Senator Boner,
No.
Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Jones,
No.
Senator Schuler,
Aye.
Chairman Landon.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 3 ayes, 2 noes.
Okay, so Senate File 25 will go to the Senate and hang on to that amendment. We may see it upstairs during committee of the whole, and and we'll continue to work the bill. I appreciate everybody on that bill. Thank you for your testimony and for being here. We're going to move on to Senate File 27. That is a little bill that came to us late in the interim, you might remember. It's leash dogs for tracking black bear. It was not one of our interim topics, and so we did not take it up as a committee, but several members of the committee thought that it made a lot of sense, and so we brought this bill. I won't spend a lot of time on it, committee, and I won't go out front if that's okay with everyone. This is a bill that goes into 23-3109, which is the statute related to the use of dogs. And if you go down to paragraph D, all this does is add black bear to the ability for a hunter to track that animal. Just a little background, in 2019, legislation was passed to allow for these blood trailing dogs to be used. The intention was to allow tracking of black bears at that time, according to our constituent who brought this issue. Current law allows one leash blood trailing dog to recover big game within 72 hours of being shot. Black bears are classified as trophy game, not big game. So wardens were citing the recovery of a bear with a dog. The court in Wyoming upheld the citation, and the result is unrecovered bears. Bears, full disclosure, I have not hunted bears. I've hunted big game, but bears are pretty cagey. And if you hit one and it's not a lethal shot, they can get away from a hunter. And anyone in here who is a hunter knows all about the ethics and the code that we carry with us out there. We never want to leave an animal in the field. And so that's why, for me, this bill made a lot of sense. I'm anxious to hear from the department again and make sure that there are no concerns, but it sure made a lot of sense to me. So that is the bill. Be glad to answer any questions from the senators. First, before we go, department, would you like to come forward? Chief, good morning again. Good to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I spoke so much on the earlier side, I thought I would just try to keep my comments brief this time, so.
Yeah.
You've already covered many of the talking points. You know, in 2019, 23-3109 was passed to allow the use of blood trailing dogs to track big game animals. As you've mentioned, big game, as defined in statute, is antelope, bighorn sheep, deer, elk, moose, and mountain goats. And it just didn't include black bears. There are some restrictions on that. You know, they need to do that within 72 hours. They need to have the dog leashed no longer than 50 feet, and they need to wear fluorescent orange or fluorescent pink while they're doing it. And so there's some restrictions already in place there. We've had no issues with that as far as big game. This simply allows black bear hunters to do the same. So it allows somebody to track an injured bear, and it helps them even to just find a bear if they've shot it and it goes and lays down somewhere in thick brush. It just allows the use of dogs to go find that. And so I don't see any impact to the department. It just helps the hunter be able to track the bear that they shoot.
Appreciate that, Mr. Smith. So you feel like your guys could handle this out across and be okay?
I think we would do okay.
Yeah, thanks. Anything for the Chief Warden? Thanks. Appreciate it, Dan. Thank you. Okay, further testimony on this little bear bill. Big dog, little bear bill.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
members of the committee, I probably should have sat up front and not where I keep having to walk around for today. Jess Johnson, Wyoming Wildlife Federation, we stand in very firm support of this bill. And I will say personally, as a hunter, the availability to have, be able to call someone with a trained dog that can come in, it just alleviates some of the stress. It doesn't make it so we take less careful shots. It doesn't make us be any more lax in our approach of ethic, but it does add that little bit of a just catch net underneath in case of those horrific positions where you end up and you just have an animal you can't find, or you have something that goes wrong with the shot. You know, I have lost an elk before. It was the second elk I ever shot. It was a huge 6x6 and it took me 5 days to find it. I did about 42 miles in grid patterns. And I did end up finding him about 436 yards uphill. And I had had a good shot with a bow, right? You know, bolt to the heart. He had died probably within minutes of shooting, but he had gone into a marsh and I could not find him and see him. Had this kind of stuff been around, and this was pre the original big game thing, you know, I would have called and been able to recover not only just the head and ivories, which was all I was able to take when I finally found him because the meat had spoiled, but I could have taken the meat, which was really why I was out there. I've had many, many friends use Rocky Mountain Big Game Recovery. These guys, they have trained dogs. They are expanding into the state of Wyoming. They are awesome. I've seen these dogs work. They're really, really powerful. So adding black bear, and as someone that has had and heard of many stories of black bears just being a little tougher than a lot of other game animals, this is just another tool in the toolbox to make sure that the ethics are there, the fair chase is there, and that we are doing our due diligence as hunters to really put our best foot forward for the wildlife and making sure that we are holding our responsibility to following up on those shots.
Appreciate it, Ms. Johnson. Thank you. Anything? Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Any further testimony in the room on this little bill? Okay, I think we do have somebody maybe online waiting. Might be a constituent that enlightened us to this situation and brought this bill to us, I think.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Julie McAllister,
I was hoping Julie could join us this morning.
she declined my invite.
She declined it?
She did.
Okay, well, appreciate Ms. McAllister bringing this issue to us in the first place. And so sorry she can't join us. Is there any other testimony? Anyone else online? Okay, we'll close testimony. What's your pleasure on the bill, senators?
Move the bill.
Okay, moved by Senator Schuler. Any other comments on this bill? Would you please take roll, Sue, on Senate File 27, leash dogs for tracking black bear?
Senator Boner, Senator Hicks,
Aye.
Senator Jones. Aye. Senator Schuler,
Aye.
Chairman Landon.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Okay, we will go to the Senate with that bill, and look forward to the visit up there. Next bill for our consideration, Senate File 43, Conservation District Supervisor Contracting. Senator Hicks, you're welcome to just stay put in the interest of expedition this morning. Take us away on Senate File 43.
Members of the body, this is just more of a cleanup than anything else. So the Conservation District statutes were promulgated in 1941. This was pre or post Dust Bowl era to try to help landowners. There was a provision in statutes that goes back in 1941 when they were adopted. And so the repealer here, 11-16-123B, says no contract of the district supervisors for payment of money is valid unless the supervisors have at the time the contract is made funds in cash, securities, or deposits sufficient for payment thereof. So if you don't have 100% cash, you can't enter into a contract. Mr. Chairman, members of the body, what I found out is this is so archaic that if we go back.
Would you turn your microphone on, Senator? Thank
Mr.
you.
President or Chairman, if we go back and find out, and I think you are all aware, I work for a conservation district, but over the years, my board has borrowed money. I know there's a number of boards around the state that have acquired office space or vehicles or specialized farming equipment for utilization and borrowed a little money. So we're just trying to keep our local governments in compliance with the law. Just to remind you, in 1990, the legislature authorized those conservation districts to go onto the ballot for a mill levy. So they're now funded. Typically what happens if they're going to borrow money, they pledge part of their future tax revenues as securities for that. And it allows them to perform their duties as like buy pickups and equipment and office buildings and storage space. So Is it just a little cleanup? I'm not aware of any other of the 700 some special districts in the state of Wyoming that have this provision that they can't borrow money in there, Mr. Chairman. So it just repeals that provision. It's archaic in statutes and certainly doesn't, is not applicable for today's circumstances. So I'd stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Any questions from the panel? Any testimony on this little bill brought by Senator Hicks, Conservation District Supervisor Contracting, Senate File 43? Any testimony? Is there anybody online?
Mr. Chairman, I have one, Holly Kennedy.
Okay. Good morning. Can
Good
you hear us? Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I can. My name is Holly Kennedy. I'm here today representing the Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts. This was a bill that was brought forward through our policy process. So this was actually brought forward by an individual district for consideration by all of our elected supervisors. And so it went through our process where it went, came from that local district, came to a area meeting, went through that process, and then ultimately went up to our state convention and passed through our business meeting. So we do have policy in our book to support this bill. We do appreciate Senator Hicks bringing this forward for all of your consideration. It is something that would really help out our conservation districts so that if they needed, they could take out a loan to buy a building, to buy vehicles, or perhaps even just have some operating capital while they're waiting for some grant monies to come in, because as you know, we work largely off of grants. And so at certain times of the year, we have quite a bit in play at one time. So thank you for the consideration of this bill. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Ms. Kennedy, thank you for taking time to join us this morning. Anything for our conservation districts? Okay, thank you, Ms. Kennedy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else online this morning who wants to testify?
Not for this bill, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
thank you very much. I'll close testimony on this one. Senate File 43. What's your pleasure, committee? Moved by Senator Boner. Further discussion on Senate File 43. Okay, Sue, would you please take roll on Senate File 43, Conservation District Supervisor Contracting?
Senator Boner. Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Jones.
Aye.
Senator Schuler.
Aye.
Chairman Landon.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Senator Hicks, we're right behind you if a fight breaks out up there. We'll see you in the Senate with that one. Senate File 66 is the next bill for our consideration, donated hunting licenses amendments. Senator French is with us this morning with this one. Good morning again, Senator. It's great to see you. Tell us all about donated hunting license amendments this morning.
I'll do my
Senator.
best.
That'd be great.
Mr. Chairman, committee. There's a local group up there in Park County, my county, that works with disabled hunters, and they get a number of requests every year. And then they choose from all across the United States, and they choose who they'll support and help. And they go with the donated landowner tag. I get 2 antelope tags every year. And I donate one of the tags to the Disabled Hunters Group every year. And I've been doing that for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, maybe a long time. And so they'll.
Thank you for that.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
it's really gratifying. And they'll assign a hunter to that tag or whatever. Then the volunteers, there's a lot of volunteers up there that will say person X has the tag ahead of the hunting season. They will go out in the field in that hunt area and, oh, there's a nice buck antelope for this person. And they'll track it. They'll watch their movements and everything. Then the day that they can hunt, they will take them out there. And often it's in a van, maybe. And if they're paralyzed individual, they have track chairs and they'll get them out of the track chair. You know, and that's tricky. That antelope is not going to stand there, you know, forever and look at you. So they try their best and they get that person, the disabled person, out in the track chair and, you know, and whatever. And often they'll help them line up the shot and everything. Anyway, and often it's really gratifying for me because I donate a tag and often they come to the farm and harvest their antelope on the farm. And God, they're so appreciative. Anyway, that's my little spiel there. This come about from that group. They've been working on it for a number of years, couple years, I guess, to make some amendments. And I think they're online to comment about it. Once I kind of go through it a little bit. It's the donated hunting license amendments. And on page 1, like line 8, section 1, Wyoming statute 23-1705J and K is amended to read. And then on the second page of the bill, these are their comments to me. And that's why I'm sitting here. This is what they would like to see that they've been working on for a couple of years, apparently. Anyway, on the second page, starting on line 4, licenses each year for the exclusive use by persons 20 years of age or younger. They wanted that changed. They wanted that 20 or younger stricken in the new language be exclusive use by persons not less than 12 years of age. Because 12 is the legal hunting age. You can go out there and hunt. So they wanted, you know, the other was kind of vague, under 20. Well, what does that really mean? So they wanted to go with legal hunting age or older. So if you move down to line, same page 2, line 18, I'll start on 17. License to the Department for reissuance to a veteran with disabilities. Then it says, or a person. They want to strike out or. So it would read, license to the Department for reissuance to a veteran with disabilities, comma, a person with permanent disability who uses a wheelchair, or a person who is vision impaired. So instead of either or, it's all inclusive, several items there. Then you go on down to line 22, hunting opportunities to a veteran with disabilities, adding a person who is vision impaired. So that's the gist of the bill, their recommendations. This is simple tweak to the existing legislation. And that was their recommendation. They asked if I would bring it forward. I said I would. So they're a tremendous group and they do such great work out there. And those disabled hunters, however they're disabled, you know, they're so appreciative. And if the chairman and the committee would allow, online is Terry Skinner. He's the one that has the background for this. He's online. He could really fill in any blanks.
Appreciate that, Senator. Thanks. Nice job. The two changes that I see in the bill, this is going to allow somebody of any age, really, above the age of 12. Prior to this was aimed at the younger hunters. Seems like 20 and younger. Now this opens it up to just somebody of any age who,
well, 12 and older than 12, 12 and older.
Right.
So,
and then of course, vision impaired. So we will absolutely get with Terry here in a minute on testimony. I want to hear from the department. So Senator, stay close and good job on the bill. Appreciate it.
thank you.
So department, we would love to hear from you, Director, and anyone else from your staff on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here with me for this bill is Chief Dirk Miller. He's the head of our fiscal and everything licensing. So he's definitely the expert in this arena. But just a couple tidbits to offer here on both of these issues. The first one, where you're modifying the age for a life-threatening or serious illness. Currently in commission regulation, each of the species, antelope, deer, elk, and wild turkey license, the commission has put in regulation that they offer 50 per each species, so 200 possible. The last 2 years, only 53 have been given out over all of those species. So definitely there's capacity for an increase. And then the second piece, the visually impaired piece, just to point out, there is no definition of that in this proposed bill, but we currently have definition in Chapter 35 that we could lean on for that as well. So we'll just stand for any questions.
So Director, Chapter 35, are you confident then that it would cover this statute if this change is made? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Any questions of the department, senators? Thank you. Appreciate you staying for this one. Any further testimony on this little bill brought by Senator French? Any further testimony in the room? Let's, if we can, if someone's online, we'd love to get to the folks up in the Northwest.
Mr. Chairman, Patricia Winlow.
I missed that name, but
Hello?
good morning.
Good
We
morning.
we
Yes,
can hear you.
okay.
Welcome to Travel, Recreation, and Wildlife, the Senate Committee, and we're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to voice my thoughts on this issue. I support Senate File 66. People with disabilities face challenges on a daily basis that most of us don't even think about. I'm very aware of this because I'm a full-time caregiver for my son who's paralyzed, and I'm involved in Wyoming Disabled Hunters, the organization that Senator French was talking about. I'm the secretary. And this donated license program is extremely helpful to the disabled community. And I believe it should include those with visual disabilities. We have had people with visual disabilities apply and they don't qualify for a donated tag, so they have to draw their own tag. And so they sometimes don't draw, so they don't get to hunt. So it would be very helpful to them and to our organization to include them to be able to get a donated tag.
So, ma'am, great testimony. Thank you. My fault. I forgot to ask you to introduce yourself for the record this morning. Yeah. So,
and I've never done this before, so I don't know the protocol.
Well, you did great. We just, if you would introduce yourself, we'd really appreciate it.
I'm Patricia Winlow. I live in the Cody area, and I am the secretary of Wyoming Disabled Hunters.
Thank you very much for being here this morning. Any questions, Senator, of Ms. Winslow? And thanks for all you do for these folks up in your neck of the woods. And it's great to hear from the senator and what he does. And any questions? Okay, let's. I see some others who would like to testify.
Terry Skinner.
Thank you, Ms. Winslow. Really appreciate it. Okay.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to
Terry Skinner, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Skinner. Let's go to you first.
Okay, my name's Terry Skinner. Thank you.
Good morning, Terry. Can you turn up your volume just a little bit? We'll try to get you down here too, and appreciate you being here.
Okay, let me see about turning this volume up. I believe I'm all the way up as far as I can.
Okay, yeah, I think we can hear you. Mr. Skinner, please, yeah, introduce yourself and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm a 8-year member of Wyoming Disabled Hunters, where I was the president for the last 5 years before stepping down last year. Wyoming Disabled Hunters has coordinated over 370 disabled hunters since having the first hunts in 2009. We've accumulated remarkable experience with Wyoming game and fish regulations and coordinating through a multitude of applicants' disabilities. Wyoming Game and Fish has a wonderful donated tag program. In the basis to currently qualify for a donated tag, one must be a 50% or higher VA rated service-connected veteran or have a permanent disability who uses a wheelchair. Those are the only two qualifications. This Senate File 66 bill involves two rather minor revisions, allowing individuals age 12 and older with life-threatening illnesses and or individuals with vision impairments also qualify for donated big game tags and turkey licenses that are sponsored by a nonprofit charitable organization with a mission to provide opportunities and experiences. Just some justifications behind these small rewrites is, hunters with life-threatening illnesses that are 20 years of age or younger already qualify to receive donated tags sponsored by a nonprofit charitable organization, but it's limited to 50 licenses. It's felt that this age regulation and quota limit is far too restrictive and should be expanded down to age 12 with no quota. Wyoming Disabled Hunters have had situations arise through the 18 years plus that they've been in existence, whereby hunters with life-threatening diseases and in some cases terminally ill diseases were unable to hunt because they simply couldn't draw their own tag and didn't qualify for a donated tag either. Hunters with these serious health issues compromising their ability to hunt but weren't in a wheelchair yet couldn't qualify for a donated tag. Their life expectancy was limited, yet the opportunity to hunt Wyoming big game hinges solely on their luck to draw a big game tag for an area of their choosing. Drawing those tags is becoming increasingly more challenging, as we all know, yet considering their life-threatening illnesses, they may never be afforded a life-altering achievement of realizing a big game hunt. It's felt such life-threatening by illness hunters should also qualify to receive a donated tag equally as much as a permanent wheelchair user, disabled veteran, that's 50% or higher VA rated, and vision impaired hunters. Speaking to the vision impaired hunters, again, they must draw their own tags, which can be quite problematic for resident hunters trying to target the hard to gain or hard to obtain species for hunt areas, plus non-resident hunters facing even more difficult draw odds. Vision impaired hunters should fall into this category, just like veterans and wheelchair users, to receive donated big game tags. Vision impaired hunters face a significant physical disadvantage when it comes to hunting, and therefore should likewise be able to receive a donated tag. Here's a little bit of perspective that also defends this needed change. Vision impaired hunters currently automatically qualify for a Wyoming Disabled Hunter permit, which also includes a shoot from vehicle permit, in addition to a season extension permit. Those are the two permits that are currently in place now through Wyoming Game and Fish. The shoot from vehicle permit, like I mentioned, was included in the disabled hunter permit effective January 1 of 2023. This vision impairment disability is already recognized by Wyoming Game and Fish through their own regulations. Vision impaired hunters qualifying for all available disabled permits mirrors wheelchair users who also automatically qualify for all permits. Examples are like paraplegics, quadriplegics, or other physical disabilities like lung, heart, etc., requiring their wheelchair usage. So it's just, I guess in summary, we're just trying to make these a little more, I guess, fair to the disabled community to be able to receive a disabled or a donated tag rather, in the light of their circumstances.
Okay, Mr. Skinner, we really appreciate it. Thank you. Good reminders all the way through your testimony, and thank you for taking the time this morning to get on and support Senator French in this bill. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that arise.
Okay, any question? I think we're good. We've got, I think, one more to testify this morning on this bill.
Two more, Mr. Chairman. We'll go with Scott Hecht.
Good morning. Welcome. Oh, goodness. Well, so we're having a little bit of audio problem here. I'm sorry to say. So can you check, make sure you're not muted and your volume is at the right? I am so sorry. Senator French, if you know this lady, maybe you can let her know we just we're not able to hear, unfortunately. You know, it's interesting. We're getting the closed captioning at the bottom of the screen, but ma'am, we could not hear you this morning. I'm so sorry. We appreciate you taking the time to try to get on with us. I'm assuming that was one of our supporters of the bill. Anybody else?
Leslie.
Okay, we have another one.
If you can hear me, I'm not really sure how to.
Okay,
make
we
this
can hear
go
you,
on.
Leslie. Thank you for
Very
being here this
good.
morning. Please introduce yourself and give us some testimony on this bill.
My name's Leslie Nistico. I'm on the board to the Wyoming Disabled Hunters. Since Terry resigned last year, I'm the one who's going through the applications for our disabled hunters. This year we have 122 applicants for our 20 hunt. And unfortunately, one of our applicants who is a selection process that we go through based upon their disability and need for the opportunity to hunt. I do have a, is up there as far as the selection process that we had possibly be an antelope hunter for us this year. The downs selecting him at this point is he stands very little chance of drawing a tag because he does not qualify for the donated program under the statute. And I'll just say I'm in support. And Pat have said there's really no need to say anymore.
Okay, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning to support the bill. Okay, is there anyone else?
That's everybody, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. One more time in the room, anybody else on this bill? Okay, I'll close public testimony. What's your pleasure, committee? Moved by Senator Jones. And Anything further on this bill? Okay. Would you please take roll on Senate File 66, donated hunting license amendments?
Senator Boner.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks has left an absentee vote of aye.
Okay,
Senator Jones.
Aye.
Senator Schuler.
Aye.
Chairman Landon.
aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Okay, Senator French, we're right behind you if a fight breaks out upstairs. Good luck. That's going to the Wyoming Senate and good job this morning. That's a good bill. So look forward to the discussion upstairs and we'll carry on. Just some housekeeping committee. That brings us to the end of our business here this morning. Travel, Recreation and Wildlife will meet again at noon, trying to help some of our colleagues. Lots of bills that need to get out by Thursday. So we will meet at noon, right after the noon recess, to take up Senate File 104, Higher Education Research Funding, Senate File 109, Cowboy State Agricultural Trust Fund. We look forward to that one, Senator Boner. And then Senate Joint Resolution 9, Keeping Public Lands Protected and Decisions Local. And we're going to try hard to get all 3 of those bills done at noon. So might see some of you a little bit later, and hope you have a good